This is Module 1, Section 2, and we are going to be concentrating on Objective 7 for this video. Before we get to what the actual objective is, here's a quick question. Add the numbers 1 to 10 quickly. What are you going to do? Okay. You can just add them like this all the way across. You could. You could pull out a calculator and type them in one at a time all the way across. You could do them in your head one at a time all the way across. Have you ever thought about adding them up in a different order using one of the properties that we've been talking about lately? Okay, let me show you what I would probably do. It doesn't say you have to do it in your head. You can do it any way you want. Okay, so what if I were to add 1 and 9? I'd get 10, wouldn't I? What if I added 2 and 8? I'd get 10. See the pattern? 3 and 7 is also 10. 4 and 6 is 10. 5 doesn't have anything to add to it, but, okay, so we have 110 for these. We have 110 for these. We have a 10 for those. And another 10 for these. Then we have the 10 that we started with. And the 5. Okay. So add those all up. And we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 5. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Okay, what about 1 to 50? Could you do the same thing? Sure you could. Okay, so 1 plus 2 plus 3. Am I going to want to write 50 numbers? Maybe there's a shortcut that we could use. Okay, but what would they add up to this time? 10? Probably not, huh? So 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. Okay, you know that the dot, dot, dot means that numbers are missing, right? Let me put a plus right there instead of a dot. Okay, so what if we wanted to get them to add up to equal 50 this time? Okay, so then we would add the 1 and the 49, the 2 with the 48, the 3 with the 47. Okay, things would go a lot faster that way, wouldn't they? Okay, so there's tricks to doing some of these more complicated problems that might make them easier sometimes. Are you going to need a trick every time? Absolutely not. But sometimes it makes them easier for you. Okay, so Objective 7 is using addition properties and strategies to add whole numbers. Okay, so I showed you a different way of changing the order of adding, so that was the commutative property, to make it easier. And that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so 2 plus 3 plus 7 plus 8 plus 4, you could do that straight across. 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 7 is 12, 12 plus 8 is 20, 20 plus 4 is 24. I can do that pretty quickly because I'm used to it. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can do it faster. Doesn't matter. There are easier ways of doing that, though, because you're going to group them together so that it makes it easy for you. Okay, notice they move the 2 and the 8 close together. Why? Because they add up to equal 10. Then they move the 3 and the 7 because they equal 10. And then the 4 was just left over, so it came down by itself. So we have 20 and 4 for a total of 24. Okay, they've set these up specifically so that things would add up easily. That won't always happen, but they're going to just do it so that you can practice adding things in different orders, okay? So on B, they rearranged it so that the 17 and the 3 are together, because that gives you 20. And then 8 and 12 they had next, because that gives you 20. And now the 5 and the 4 are left, and they're easy enough to add up by themselves, even though it's not a multiple of 10. So you got 9 there. So 20 plus 20 plus 9 is 49. It's much easier than adding straight across. Okay, so let's do yours. Hopefully you've already done them, and you've turned it back on, and here we go. Okay, so let's figure out which ones go together easily. I'm going to say 5 goes with the other 5. And I like to cross them out so that I don't skip any or I don't use any twice. Okay, so next I'm going to do the 6 with the 4, because that also equals 10. Then I'm just going to bring the 2 and the 3 down because they're left over. And now I have them all. Okay, so these 2 equal 10. These 2 equal 10. And these 2 equal 5. Okay, so 10 plus 10 is 20. Add 5 is 25. Okay, is there another way of doing it? Absolutely. There are many ways that you could add that together, but this is using the commutative property. Okay, so you're changing the order to make adding easier. Okay, on B, I'm going to do it without rewriting it. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, what am I going to combine 4 with to make it easy? The 6, right? Because 4 plus 6 is 10. So I'm going to add, there I go, drawn with the dot again. I'm going to add 4 and 6 to get 10. Okay, now I'm going to add 7. Actually, let's make it a different mark. There you go. 7 and 13 give me 20, right? And then 9 and 8 give me 17. Now I am adding those in a different order. I'm just not rewriting them in the order that I'm adding them. Okay, but now I can add the rest of those in my head pretty easily. So 10 plus 20 is 30, and 30 plus 17 is 47. Okay, this last one looks kind of crazy, but it's actually kind of fun if you ask me. I know, I'm weird. All right, so here we go. I'm going to put 8 with 12, and I get 20. Then let's do 3 with 7, because that's 10. Then how about 4 and 6, just right here next to each other? It's another 10. And then how about 4 and a 6 here? That's another 10. And then the 3s are just leftovers, so let's just bring them down together as 6. Okay, now we can add this one in our head pretty easily. So we have 20, 30, 40, 50, 6. Kind of cool, huh? So that is the commutative property, because we're changing the order of the way that we add. Instead of adding straight across, we're switching the order up. And that only works if you're adding straight across. Every single one of those is add. Okay, now this one is using the associative property to make things easier. So if I were to add them in the order that you see, I would do the parentheses first. I'd have 9 add 12. That's not so bad, but you can make it easier if you change the parentheses around. So let's move the parentheses. So instead of 1 and 8, it's 8 and 12, like this. Because now this is equal to 20, and 20 plus 1 is 21. Okay, on the second one, is this one very easy as is? Not really. Okay, and I'm going to do it differently than they do even. And I'll show you that here in just a second. They don't change the order at all, and that's fine. So 34, 7, 3, 6. 34, 7, 3, 6. All right, but they recognize that 7 plus 3 can be added easily and get 10. Okay, then they went 34 plus 10 is 44, and 44 plus 6 is 50. That's pretty easy. And I'll come back and do that one like I said I was going to. Okay, have you done yours on your own now? If you notice, they went A, B, and then D. I don't know where C went, and I'm sorry. If there's a C in your packet and I skipped it, I apologize. All right, so D. It's the associative property, so we want to change the parentheses. So if I move the parentheses around the 3 and the 7 instead, that will make it easier because 3 plus 7 is 10. So we get 15. If I would have done it their way, you should do parentheses first. So that would be 12. 3 plus 12 is also 15. All right, now E. We're going to rearrange parentheses, brackets, whatever we've got there and see what we can do. Now remember, you're not changing the order of the numbers, you're just changing the parentheses around. Okay, so I'm going to leave the 29. Oops, no, I'm not. I'm going to group the 29 with the 1. And then the 25 gets left out. And the 4 is always going to be out there in the back. Okay, so 29 plus 1 is 30. And 30 plus 25 stays in the brackets. Now 30 plus 25 is 55. 55 plus 4 is not too hard, so it's 59. Okay, now B. I'm going to mix both properties together and show you how this one could be even simpler. Okay, so 34 add 7. This is the original. Okay, so now I recognize that 3 and 7 give you 10. That's right. But I also recognize that 34 and 6 give you 40. So I'm going to change the order and the parentheses. Okay, so if we did it their way first, change the parentheses around, and now change the order too, so put the 6 up with the 34. Now I could do 34 add 6 and 7 add 3. So I moved the parentheses here, so I went from these two sets to grouping the middle two numbers, so that's the associative property. And then I moved the 6 up front, so that's changing the order, that's the commutative property. Okay, and this is the last part of this objective, so we'll see you in the next video.